All right, hello everybody. We'll get back to the top cards in between the rounds, so you'll have to stick around with us to figure out what is going on in the top list. It's going to be pretty interesting, and I have it on save, so we'll continue where we left off. In the meantime, we have Thomas van der Paelt in our feature match, and for some reason I took his limited deck list instead of his constructed deck list. Alright, that should be a little more interesting. Anouk, can you just remind them they can start, because people have been waiting to start. Okay, so Thomas van der Paelt, let's get the deck names updated. First we see Scrapheap Scrounger, Narcomoeba, Driven Despair, Gather the Pact. Let's call this Stitcher's Shenanigans. There's no official deck name, so I can do whatever I want with these. And on the other side, what are we going to call this deck? That's just Blue-Red Phoenix. That's boring. Okay. And we are ready to go. All right. Welcome everybody to round 4 of Belgian National Championships. We are starting with the pioneer part of this event, and in the feature match we have Thomas van der Paelt with a green-black reanimation deck that will strive to abuse the graveyard versus Florimont Houssiau with Blue-Red Phoenix. You can't really see the table with this angle. Well, we have a solution for that. Overhead view. This is just so you have something to look at while people are mulliganing, and instead of having that static image with just an empty board. Dredgeless Dredge, is that the name? We can call it that as well. I think that's more representative. Yeah, let's change the name. Dredgeless Dredge. There we go. So, both players undefeated in the draft portion of this event. And eventually, yeah, we'll have a look at the standings of the draft to see who else came out undefeated out of the first part. Great camera now, thanks. You're welcome. Yes, I do strive to have something that gives you a pleasant viewing experience. Stitcher's Apprentice. So I expect we'll see Thomas filling up that graveyard quite a bit, and that that's the wrong Stitchers. Wait, it's not Stitchers. Supplier, yeah. Supplier, and we have a Thing in the Ice on the other side. Two defining cards in this matchup for sure. Not sure what card is played now. Ah no, Gather the Pact, of course. It's going to be, the card viewer is going to be a bit awkward, because older cards are slightly smaller on Gatherer than the newer ones, and other card viewers that we've used don't really have other issues. So Creeping Chill was milled, and did its effect for free for Thomas as a chart the course for Florimont. Smooths out his draws and fills up that graveyard. Has the opt ready to take another counter of the thing in the ice. Maybe we should just zoom in the cards, because most of them will be undersized. Let's do it that way. Whoop. Oh, I was a bit too enthusiastic. There we go. And use the viewer like this. I think that's going to be more interesting in the long run. Okay, Satyr Wayfinder. Filling the graveyard even more. And of course that one's bigger. Yeah, this isn't working. Okay, we'll have to deal with the two different sizes of cards. I'm really sorry, everybody. I wanted to be professional, but it's not happening. We're stuck with this together. Together we can make it work. Make it happen. Okay, so graveyard filling shenanigans versus multi-spell shenanigans. Scrapheap Scrounger was put into the graveyard as well. So Thomas looks like he wants to be running off cards in his graveyard. Avoid casting spells and being a very troublesome opponent for more stack-oriented decks, like some of the blue-white control decks that have been very popular online lately. It seems like a pretty slow grind of a deck. But his opponent isn't really doing much. Has double Fiery Temper in hand there. Crackling Dragon hiding in the winds as well. And we see Thomas coming in. 2 1/1s entering the red zone. End of turn, Fiery Temper going to the face. Full cost Fiery Temper. Pretty relevant. And let's see how Florimont will try to fight back. Second Fiery Temper to the face. That will also transform the thing in the ice. As we now have an Awoken Horror taking its place. 7/8, bouncing all the creatures to their owner's hands. That's a Grisly Salvage. Casting all the spells that optimize the amount of cards going into the graveyard. Yeah, choices were made. Another Creeping Chill is fired from the graveyard as Thomas slowly whittles away his opponent. There is a 2-turn clock in the form of the Awoken Horror though. that he will need to find a answer to sooner rather than later. Otherwise he won't be able to get the time for all of his shenanigans. Satyr Wayfinder is back, finds another creeping chill. I'm not sure why the rest got exiled. Oh, he found 2 creeping chills and apparently exiled the middle one as well. So he just needs to find 4 more damage. Finds a Narcomoeba. Feels like a deck that could use a little Hogak action. Hogak. All 4 creeping chills. Yes, you've taken them. And is most of the damage that you have lived through. Don't forget, there's a Scrapheap Scrounger in the graveyard, ready to hop into the battlefield. So next turn he could attack for 6, putting Houssiau on just 1 life here, but of course Houssiau has a turn of his own. And chooses to go for the Scions, the Royal variant. Just to draw and discard. Wow. Can't feel too happy about that one. Thomas choosing not to scrounge. Even though he had put it on top of his graveyard, I guess he changed his mind. As he can attack here, at least with the Narcomoeba, to put Florimont on 3. An Alpha Strike would put him on 2, just 2 attacks with the Narcomoeba to wrap things up. But Thomas has some other plans first, it seems. Yes. That is a little bit of a driven to despair action going. So, driven to despair. The despair side will give his creatures menace, and whenever this creature decombats to a player, that player discards a card. 3 creatures coming in. And nothing can block because of the menace. So he puts Florimont down to 1. Thomas taking the life totals into his own hands. I don't think he's at 56. Yeah, 6 life seems to be a reasonable amount of life to be on. Let's see if we can move this down a little bit to keep those life totals in view. 1 life to 17 for Thomas. Thomas hit all 4 of his creeping chills and now had the driven to despair to push through extra damage. Another Stitcher Supplier will give more graveyard fodder to Thomas. And there's a, what's it called, Haunted Whisper, Haunted Dead in the graveyard already, giving him further options. Treasure Cruise. according to many people, the next card on the ban list for Pioneer. I have a weird feeling that it's actually somewhat fair. I wonder what Florimont is digging for, as I don't really see a way for him to either wipe the board or get a kill off what he has here. Another thing in the eyes, but he won't be able to activate it. Yeah, I don't see it happening. No, this seems like a done deal to me. Let's see them work it out for themselves. Who wants to ban a cruise? People are complaining that Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time are the two tools that are making blue-white control decks way too strong to be healthy for the format. I did a little bit of research. Opt. Scry 1, draw 1. For Florimont. And he has found an extra Sulphur Falls. Mana, always a good thing. And the scoop. If I'm reading it correctly, Control has a 70+ win percentage though. Yes, the last Toby Henke analysis had blue-white control on 70% to 78% win percentage. So I argue that that's not really balanced. And in the meantime, Thomas managed to secure game number 1. Let's update that on the screen. And our players are going to the sideboards. In the meantime, let's have a look at the standings after draft to see who our undefeated players are. We had 10 pods, means 10 possible undefeated players, with Frank Kenne Vincent leading the pod, Glenn, Dylan, Houssiau, Florimont, whom we have on camera, Lars Meusen, Bastogne, Jérôme, Van der Paelt, Thomas, Van Holsbeek, Christophe, one of the former Belgian champions, Alan Schuur, Samein Tifan, and Macharis Jan, rounding off the pack. There's a lot of people, interesting people on 6 wins as well. It's where we find some of the other heavy hitters with Chris van der Wouwer, Michael Millis, Kenneth Pletings, Benjamin van Koekenbeek, Guy Duparc, Jan Keusters, Peter Vieren, Jelle Gijselink coming out of the woodwork, Amando Simon, Branko Nering, another former Belgian champion, Luca van Deun, Alexandre Darras, Rick Runtuene, and Pascal Vieren, both of the Vieren brothers on 2 wins currently. Pascal, another former Belgian champion. And yes, Lars and Alan, both undefeated, 2 of the Gentry champions. So the local players, it's Belgium, everyone's a local player, but the players local to the actual city doing pretty well. And we see our fierce players shuffling up for game 2. So we can keep expecting a match that is very light on the level of interaction. Well, it's true. I mean, Belgium, it's a tiny country. Everybody's a local player. Thomas, what did he have to bring in? A bunch of Thoughtseize. Duress. Fatal Push is a really interesting card because it deals with Thing in the Ice so well. Assassin's Trophy I don't think is really needed. Ashiok Dream Render doesn't really add much as well. Abrupt Decay might come in to be an extra tool against the Thing in the Ice. But other than that, I don't think there's much going on. No exile effect for the Phoenixes that we, by the way, didn't see in Florian's game. Florian, in the meantime, what do you have to fight the graveyard? 2 Anger of the Gods have some value. Ashiok Dream Render, is that the new one? I think it is. Dream Render, yeah, exiles the graveyard, so those have come in. 2 copies of that will be pretty important. But other than that, not much is coming in. Tell me, does Thomas run Tasigur? Thomas does not run Tasigur. No. Grisly Salvage, Haunted Dead, Satyr Wayfinder, Prized Amalgam, Scrapheap Scrounger, Gurmag Angler, Narcomoeba, Stitcher Supplier, Driven to Despair, Creeping Chill, Gather the Pact, lands. That's Thomas's deck lists. Sounds like a lot of judge calls there. Yes, there was a bit of an investigation on the other side of the room, and we got 2 judge calls in the back. Cage is the best card for graveyards. Correct, but it isn't here right now. Point, point. Okay, and we are heading into game 2 here in round 4 of the Belgian National Championships. We're halfway through the Swiss at this point. And I could use a nap. Okay. And we are off. Florimont mulliganed to 6. So start the match with 6 cards. 1 card down, 2 cards down after the draw, and a Stitcher Supplier is the first card for Thomas. And we do see indeed that those fatal pushes have come in from the sideboard. As a Flemish person, saying fatal pushes also always makes me feel awkward, but there's that. Thing in the Ice for Florimont, so he has his payoff card ready to go again. And in a repeat of last time, we have a Gather the Pact. Gather the Pack. How many players are playing today? I think we had 77 to start off with, and we had a few drops already after the 3 rounds of draft. Prized Amalgam going to be the choice, and again a double Creeping Chill being revealed of those of the Gather the Pact. So Thomas trying to figure out what exactly he should take, because the Gather of the Pact gave him quite a few options. So he decided to take... I forgot what he revealed. Chart course. Oh, yeah, need to pay for that before you continue. And has his Phoenix to discard this time and gets to go on a bit of a graveyard shenanigans as well. So Thomas trying to figure out how to sequence the cards in his hand. Because the thing with decks like the one he's playing, it's more like a magic puzzle than playing actual magic. It's figuring out how to sequence things as optimally as possible. Not blocking with the thing in the ice here, that's interesting.
Maar dat maakt niks van. Nee, het is printen dat je moet doen, maar hij heeft man nooit als dingen staan binnen. Dus waar is naar je printers? Ja, ik gebruik
Okay. A land into play untapped. I'm not sure why he wouldn't block. Maybe he's afraid of something like a blade brand, but that seemed pretty random. Is a charm. Lets us cycle through a bunch of cards. And the horror awakens. This time it looks a lot more dire for Thomas. Is this holding one of the creeping chills at this point? And Florimont with the spells also got an Arcline Phoenix back. So suddenly a 2-turn clock is put onto the table.
Ja, zoiets. Maar een pro-free trial, dat is niet...
Haunted Dead is being brought back for Thomas. Gets a 1/1 flying spirit token, chum blocks the Awakened Horror. And that at the end of the turn will also bring back the Amalgam. But he shouldn't be at 20 anymore, so they're using their life total pads instead of our display. So, Thomas forced to search for answers here, and one of the answers being getting rid of your opponent. Gather the pack, pretty interesting that it lets you take 2 cards if you're later in the game. Puts another Amalgam in the graveyard, that's rather relevant. And swings back for 5. Let's hope we'll get Thomas's life total adjusted as well. I don't think he's at the 20 anymore.
20 minuten. 19 minuten.
But it does mean he is representing a lethal next turn. Yeah. They caught on. More than 10 life. That looks like a pretty safe life total. You can chump block the Awakened Horror. Here with the Stitcher Supplier, get some more gas into the tank. Which makes it awkward for Florimont to attack with that. Which makes attacks in general super awkward at this point. Chart a course to find something more useful. Discards a Phoenix. Already puts it aside. Okay, extra land. Can you get to 3 spells that do relevant stuff and bring your Phoenix back? That'd be pretty huge. We see the slash already in hand. That can be cast easily. Is this the slash? Doesn't do very much on the board here. Gets rid of the Haunted Dead. Yep. Slashes away the Haunted Dead. And plays a Treasure Cruise. That's the third spell. Technically not the correct sequencing, but unless there's very weird wording on the Phoenix. But since there's barely any strategical advantage... Ah no, at the beginning of the combat. Okay, I thought it was when you cast the third spell. No, no problem there. Arclight Phoenix comes back, stays on the defensive, and Florimont passes the turn back against the wall. Thomas up 1-0 in round 4 of Belgian Nationals here in the first round of Pioneer. So Thomas needs to piece together a sequence that allows him to win the game through what looks like it's going to be an exponentially growing problem. He has the second creeping chill, the third or fourth creeping chill in hand, and we have a Driven to Despair here that is giving all his creatures menace and will help him fight Florimont in the hand department. First game to discard 2, puts him on 1, and as we know there's a creeping chill in his hand, so unless Florimont has some interaction on the stack, which we haven't seen any of so far. There's one negate in the sideboard that could be an issue for that plan. But currently it looks like Thomas is about to wrap up this match. Okay. Florimont, what are you going to do with your turn? We see an Izzet Charm in hand. That can dig into a lot. Anger of the Gods is pretty relevant here. He managed to get rid of the Angler by double blocking. So an Anger of the Gods clears the board and leaves the thing in the ice. So he might feel like that's the way to go. He also has a double-faced card indicator, which I'm assuming is another thing in the ice. Yep. That's not relevant because we have a Creeping Chill incoming. Ah, there is a charm actually stops the Creeping Chill, but it doesn't look like he wants to keep it here. No, changes his mind, sniffs the problem, and passes the turn. Yep, brings the Scrounger back. Looking to first be in a scenario... Wait. Oh, yeah. Amalgam accidentally put a Grisly Salvage on the table. And we're coming in swinging. So it's going to force the issue in hand and then follow up with a Creeping Chill. There's a block there. Is a charm to take care of the creature. That leaves you with 1 mana. That takes away the only card you had in hand to interact with what Thomas is doing. and then flops the Creeping Chill on the table. Thomas wins 2-0 and advances into the next round 4-0.